Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind podcast. This week's show, we're going to recap Fight to Win 141 that took place in Dallas, Texas. We're going to preview Fight to Win 142 that is a stacked card that also is taking place in Dallas, Texas. We're going to preview Spyder Korea, the road to black belt, taking place in Korea, and Submission Underground 14, SUG 14, taking place at an undisclosed location. It's rumored to be Fight Island, but I don't know yet. That's headlined by Wagner Hosha and Craig Jones, the rematch. As always on this show, I'm your host, May Angel, my co-host.
Emil.
How you doing, Emil?
I'm doing great, man. We are in full swing, like previewing 3 marquee events next weekend.
Dude, it's going to be great.
Jiu-Jitsu is back.
I mean, we're still in quarantine.
Fucking awesome.
So we're still, again,
Sure.
as the entire time this is going on, the show is going to take a slight audio hit. I'm going to try to fix it the best that I can in post. Once we are all out of this in Baltimore, we're going to get back to doing the show live and in person, and the audio should be better, but please bear with us while we preview some dope-ass jiu-jitsu events.
Hell yeah.
Dude, there is so much news. I literally had to send you the news document ahead of the show this week. I was like, hey, there's a lot of news this week. You're going to need a document for it. So where do you want to start?
Where do we even start? I'm asking you, where do you want to start, man? You put this list together.
We have tons of new articles on the grapplingrewind.com. The events list of grapplingrewind.com/events is up and running. It has everything coming up. There are new articles previewing like Fight to 142 that we're going to talk about later in the show. I'm doing one on Lovato that hopefully should be out by the time of this recording. Basically him taking 3 years off in the gi. We are in full swing for like Grappling Rewind related content. That's kind of the first big piece of news. Let's see. So yeah, we're going to keep trying to put out more articles. So check us on the podcast, and you can also check the grapplingrewind.com out for like cool new stuff that we're putting out there. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, Dorino versus Woodley is this week.
That's
on the UFC.
bonkers,
Again, not really
man.
grappling news, but we cover Dorino all the time on the Grappling Rewind, and so I figured that him fighting in the UFC a former world champion that like literally just lost the title his last fight, that is a huge step up for Dorino.
Yep, that is a colossal step up. I mean, and Dorino has been putting on clinics in UFC, so he's definitely on the rise.
Knocked out Maya.
Yeah.
Knocked out Damian Maya. And then he was like, I want a big fight. And it's like, I want Woodley. And the UFC was like, okay. And then Woodley was like, okay. And everyone's like, wait, Woodley said yes to it? Sweet.
Yeah,
so, again,
yeah.
I like watching both those guys fight. Like, a huge fan of Dorino. I love watching Dorino fight. So, that'll be, again, if he wins that, like, he's on the short list for a title shot then. So, crazy quarantine times we live in.
Skyrocket up those rankings, man.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think that Dorino's manager said that, like, they both have 3 losses in the UFC. Dorino is 11-3 and Woodley is 9-3. And Dorino's on like a 5-fight win streak. I was like, goddamn, he's really put together like a hell of a streak recently in the UFC.
And speaking of call-outs, we have Tackett putting feelers out for a potential matchup with Lucas Lepre. Like,
yeah, I saw that. Because, we were talking about him winning the brown belt title at Fight to Win. He previously had the purple belt title at Fight to Win. Now he has the brown belt title. And then was it either a story? I forget where I got this from. It was maybe in a comment. I was basically like, hey, do you guys want to see me fight Lepre? I think is what it was. And I went, after this weekend, like, I'll see him fight Lepre. Like, that's a tough matchup. But, like, the kid's really good. Showed it this weekend. He showed it, like, previously. We literally wrote an article this last week on him and Pedro Mourinho for the Third Coast bracket. Like, I looked into a bunch of his records and, like, who he'd beaten. Like, dude, he's, like, coming up quick. So, I love watching,
yeah,
like...
I mean, he looks good, but, like, dude, it's fucking Lucas Lepre. Like, that is a colossal leap in fucking talent in terms of opposition. So I'm glad Tackett is hungry. I'm loving it. Like, we'll see, exactly where his skill ceiling is right now. Although I think he has tons of potential.
Yeah.
For growth, but that is a lot in talent in opposition. So.
Yeah, it's a pretty big jump. But again, I want to see it. I love watching like up and coming prospects just take on harder and harder competition than like, because they matter win or lose or draw, they always come out so much better like the next match. Like look at Rotolo. he's good, looked okay looked really good at trials, and then you see him in ADCC, and then after ADCC, he's like, oh, you can contend with like the upper echelon of Nogi guys.
I mean, part of it too is just building confidence, So like knowing that you can hang with those people gives you confidence, and then it allows you to really push your skill set in that upper echelon, right?
Yeah. So I'm super excited. Speaking of the tackets, the full Jits King bracket, the 16-man, plus the list of super fights has been released. We're going to preview that closer to the event. That's scheduled for June 13th. So the week before that, we're going to preview it on the show. Maybe do an article on that. I'm not sure yet. Still kind of channeling everything out to figure out what we have time to write for. But the 16-man bracket is out. It is a hell of a bracket. I am extremely excited for, like, I want to see how everyone actually matches up in the 16-man, like who they put against who in the first round. It's really hard to preview these things until we have a bracket. So, but the full one's out. I'm excited for it. In other news, let's talk about other call-outs. Ben Askren called out Dylan Dennis for a wrestling contract. And basically sent him the Flow wrestling contract. Was like, look, I'll fight you in wrestling. I'll compete against you in wrestling. Sign the contract. And I think it was crickets.
Yeah, I mean it's a bizarre. It's more of a freak show than anything. It's not like either of those guys have like put together streaks in grappling where we want to see them like go at each other. It's more like let's take these two loudmouths and see them scrap.
Yeah, it's news. What else we got in news? Third Coast Grappling has announced all 8 names for the plus 80 event. Holy shit. That bracket is crazy. Or that list of names is absolutely crazy. We have Felipe Andrew, Manuel Hibamar, Felipe Pena, Ricardo Evangelista, Jonatas Gracie, Gabriel Roberto Jimenez, and Gustavo Batista.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Pena's in that?
Pena's in that.
Oh, so I haven't even seen the recent fucking... Jesus Christ. That's fucking monster, dude.
Yeah. So that's coming... That's literally out literally today. So, like, we got... Dude, I'm so excited for that bracket. That is going to be absolutely crazy.
I need to revisit that because I looked at their previous bracket and, made some predictions there, but holy shit, they added some big-ass names
Well,
to
this is for the Kumite 2. This isn't for the Kumite 1. This is for their second Kumite event, the over 180 Kumite.
That's wild because they have some of the same people in the previous one.
Jimenez is in both.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, man, can you make under 180? Yep, you can definitely make over 180. So, like, dude, that's a crazy... I cannot wait to preview that bracket.
That's fucking monster.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Let's see what else. Another news for Monsters. Muhammad Ali got in a motorcycle accident. Looks like he's fine.
Jesus.
He has a giant, like a piece of his chest, like all the skin on his chest got taken off. Looks like he was wearing a helmet. Looks like he's fine. He was all smiles on I think the 2 pictures he posted on Instagram. So hopefully he is not injured in that, and we see him compete. There's a cool Instagram account that makes like theoretical fight posters, and they have an awesome one. I just found it this morning of Nick Rodriguez and Muhammad Ali, like the second rematch, and it is such a cool poster because it's got both of them on either side. It's got their names, and then it's got the picture of Ali getting choked by Rodriguez in the center of it, and Ali like this. Dude, it's such a well-made poster. I was like, I would like to see that rematch again, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting, especially because like Ali seemed a little bit off that ADCC. So
I mean, that was the first match of the first day of ADCC, and they put the 2 tanks against each other.
But then Ali also got knocked out of Absolute by Lachlan Giles, so it's like it was not a great ADCC run for Ali. But we know he's a beast, so we'll see. We'll see him chain together some wins, and that rematch would be fucking fire, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But speaking of injuries and recovery, Yuri Samoa's knee is fully healed, which is awesome. Yeah. Like, hope to see him in grappling, but it sounds like he's absolutely back for MMA in the one championship.
Yeah, that he says he's good, he's ready to go. I think he's waiting for a fight in one. Offhand, I don't think Yuri has any MMA fights, but again, I don't know. I don't think he does. And this is where I need to do more research before we do the show. But yeah, I can't wait to see him. I'm super happy he got cleared to fight in one. If he wants to go fight in MMA, fully support that. I want to go see him fight. Again, one is like a super great breeding ground for like talented grapplers. They seem to bring them up appropriately and give them like great matchups. They did it with Gary. We've seen him do it. Who else? I'm missing another grappler that I think. But like they foster grapplers really well, and they give them, I think, appropriate matchups to let them build their skills. They don't just immediately throw them to the wolves. So super happy. I'm super curious to see how he looks in one. He posted some pictures of him like training way back in the day with like MMA stuff. So he's been doing it for a long time. I'm happy to see him make his debut. Happy that he is healed up. In other news, there's instructionals that are out this week. Keith Krikorian put out another $2 instructional. This time it is not 50 techniques. It is 75 techniques for $2. So that, again, that's a price you can't beat. We've covered Keith for years on the show, in ADCC, in EBI, in pick and choose your event. Keith's on all of them. $2 for 75 techniques from a guy like that is a super good deal. And I like the first one. It was a lot of fun to watch through, which is basically how Keith sets up a lot of the things that he does. I haven't got a chance to go through the second one yet, but it's $2. It's a cup of coffee. It's worth it. Support Keith. In other instructional news, Tomoyoshi Hashimoto has put out an instructional. I think it's right now it's on sale for like $20. I think it goes up to 60 something in I think June 1st, something around there. But it's dubbed over. I've watched a little bit of it. It's dubbed over in English because it's him speaking Japanese, and then it gets dubbed over. And the dub is really good from what I've seen. Looks like it has some really good piece of information. It's shot from a bunch of different angles, so that's really cool as well. Let's see. Speaking of other IBJJF stuff, the IBJJF has released a document that seems. I went to go through it before the show. It's a document that supposedly goes through how academies should open back up once they are legally able to do that, and kind of like some procedures of how they should do it. So I'm curious to see what is in that document. I haven't got a chance to crack it open and look yet, but they've released it. They have also announced that they seemingly have canceled all events until further notice.
Yeah, that I understand that. Like it's their business model is cram as many competitors into an arena as they can, and it's they don't do sales. I don't think most of their business model doesn't come from views or anything like that.
No, it's athlete registration.
It comes as athlete registration, and if you are limited to the number of athletes or just people in general you can have in a single location, then that kills the business model right there. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how they adapt. Maybe they can put on more Grand Prix style events. That would be dope.
I have no idea. We're living in strange times here. A couple other tournament promoters have come back, but the IBJJF is like it's weird to not have a bunch of majors this year. Yep. Which has been super weird to me. Like, oh yeah, we're not previewing majors, we're not recapping. Like, the Europeans happened like right under the wire, and then like no Pans, no Worlds, no Brasileiros. Like it's gonna be a super weird asterisk-y year for the records. When it's like 2020 happened, it's like what happened? It's like well we just didn't run like all of the events that year.
Not to mention like mad people are gonna be like not training, right? Like
yeah.
That's going to be really peculiar to see how people emerge from this.
Or not training like the same way that they were training before. Like you can train with like people that you live with, or like a small little groups, but you don't have that big camp structure that a lot of those guys use. And some guys, use select training partners for the entirety of their camp, but a lot of guys use, like especially guys that are still looking to make it to the world stage, use every resource they have. They use their entire gym. It's like, cool, this gym is sending like this guy to go to Worlds. Everyone's giving him the best rounds. He's picking and choosing like the whole resources of the gym to try to push that guy and elevate him to the next level. So, again, it's super weird. Again, I'm gonna read through that document this week, but yeah, it's weird to like have IBJJF seemingly announce like Yeah, until further notice, we're just not running events. I've looked at a bunch of other promotions as well this last week, and like everything's canceled. So it's strange times. Grappling Industries is still running events, and they've announced like certain locations that are opening up and how they're going to run it. So there may be a pathway if Grappling Industries can kind of figure out how to do that and do that safely. You know, there may be a pathway to additional promotions opening up, which is a good thing if it can be done safely and responsibly. You know, best of luck to everyone. I don't think I have any other news I want to talk about. There is some drama with the Modolfo Camp DVD between Gordon and some of the guys there and Mo and everyone involved. If you're interested in looking at it, you can find it all over everywhere. I think it was really funny. Our article that I wrote, I think 6 or 8 months ago on the Modolfo camp is getting a ton of hits now because everyone's trying to understand what the camp was. And I was like, oh, cool. It's cool to see an old article we wrote on the Grappling Rewind get a bunch of hits again based on like new stuff going on related to that camp. You got anything else, Emil?
That's it.
All right. Want to move into the recap section of Fight to Win 141?
Let's do it.
All right. So, on to a recap of Fight to Win 141 took place in Dallas, Texas. This event was headlined by Arnaldo Maidano versus Rafael Lovato Jr. for the light heavyweight title in the gi. The first time that we've seen Rafael Lovato in the gi in like, I think 3 years or almost 3 years.
Rafael.
Did I say Rafael?
Rafael.
Man.
Yeah, you did.
Thanks, Portuguese, for making every guy that starts with an R name put a gi on start with an H sound. Rafael Lovato Jr.
Looked like he did not miss a fucking beat. Holy shit. He was incredibly dominant in this match. In particular, his grips were a beast. And, like, we'll go into it. But, yeah, you know, Lovato Jr. secures the win via cross choke from Mount and just looked absolutely incredible.
I mean,
Where do you want to start?
I don't, like, there's so many like little things. I love Lovato's game because Lovato to me is one of the quintessential, like, he is a position first guy, but he's also a guy that is going to look to sub you. Like, he is going to get a good position on you. He is going to progress his position, and then he's going to look to submit you when he thinks that he has a good opportunity to do that. Like, and he's always looking to crawl up. So it's like he is. A lot of times we cover guys on the show that are position first guys, but they never get to that next step where it gets more exciting. Lovato, it's amazing to watch him, the way that he crawls up. I think we had, I'm missing Care Barambolo and William Tackett were on commentary for this match, and Tackett said it, I think. He was like, man, he passes straight into the mount, he gets the grips he wants, and he just keeps crawling up. And it was just beautiful work in the gi to watch, like, how Lovato dealt with Arnaldo's half guard.
It's such an entertaining match. Actually, everything about this card was super entertaining. But if you go back and watch this match, just watch Lovato's grips. They're just unbelievable. So from the get-go, he does something that made me stop and pause and like really like look at how he hit. This is the first butterfly sweep that he hits. So Arnaldo is going for a Toriando pass, and Lovato has a grip on the sleeve of the arm that Arnaldo was going to be using to push, you know, he should be shoving Lovato's leg aside for the Toriando, and he can't move his arm. Lovato takes Arnaldo's arm and shoves it straight between his legs, and with his other arm, and then just butterfly sweeps the shit out of him. It was unbelievable. It was just like sweep. Off the bat, Lovato takes a Toriando pass and turns it into a sweep just based on a savage grip.
I want to see the other side of this footage because we can see kind of the belt grip side of it, and I wanted to see like what the legs were doing there because it almost looked unreal how he's just able to turn Arnaldo over, and I watched it over.
It was so fast.
And it was the timing on it was amazing because he like gets halfway there and just turns him over, and like it looked unreal because you don't see guys get flipped over like that with the butterfly sweep very often. It's crazy.
And as you were saying, man, like, you know, Lovato lands on top with a head and arm grip and just starts doing like brutal knee cut passing, and eventually Lovato knee cut passes, Arnaldo turtles, and without missing a beat, Lovato's going for the back. Like, he's going for the kill the entire time, right? And Lovato more or less takes the back, has one hook in, and they're going out of bounds to get reset in the middle, with Lovato with one hook in. And to Arnaldo's credit, he's doing a good job. He escapes, and Lovato's on top again. And this time, Lovato starts knee cut passing with that like real nasty cross collar grip, that threatens the choke and the pass as well. It's like who was the one who was it Braulio who first kind of like that was his signature like move together.
Hodger?
I know everyone's doing. Oh, was it Hodger who did the pass with the cross collar? I thought it was Braulio.
Maybe. Josh is gonna kill me now for this one.
Exactly. Everyone does this now. Everyone knows that this is a beautiful double threat because you either have to deal with the submission or deal with the pass and eat one. And regardless, this is another moment where the grips that Lovato set up just impressed the shit out of me because he has his one arm on the cross collar, and with the other arm, he reaches behind the back, and gets the belt grip, which is such a peculiar grip in the knee cut pass to me. I didn't understand what he was doing. And then Lovato tripods on his head, and he's tripoded up. And for anyone else, this would be a dangerous position on top. It would be very easy for the person on bottom to kind of just bump you overhead to escape. But that belt grip is what allows him to glue himself to Arnaldo. Like, he's just
just takes mount off
to him. And he takes mount. He just takes mount. It's fucking amazing.
I have a screenshot of this piece of the match because I wanted to talk about it. He basically, in the way he takes mount here is so cool because he actually lifts Arnaldo like into his own chest to prevent Arnaldo from being able to hip out and change the angle enough. And so Arnaldo goes to move, and Lovato just kind of bumps his hips over everything.
He's glued to him.
And just takes mount.
He's glued to him. It's such a beautiful transition. It's pass into mount, and I haven't really seen this before. Like, this is, to me, maybe this is an old school thing that people knew about, but this is a very, very new sequence for me. It's really incredible to see it. And just another example of really clever and tenacious grip setups that Lovato sets up. So now Lovato's in mount, and he just readjusts for the cross collar, and it takes him maybe 10 or 15 seconds.
If that.
Very quickly gets the tap from the cross collar choke, which is just absolutely savage.
Yeah,
so it was beautiful gi work.
Yeah, it was just a great match. At one point, I love those two things I want to talk about that were really interesting in this match for me, kind of like a metagame. One, Arnaldo is dealing with the shoulder pressure initially in half guard on the bottom, and he tries to get Lovato off him by going to the lockdown. And Lovato kind of sits there for a second, and then just sort of moves and just is able to use his hips to address the lockdown and walk Arnaldo's hips up to start getting out of the lockdown. It was a really interesting kind of way to address that. He just he doesn't move. He just kind of waits there, waits for Arnaldo to have his hips extended and committed, and then just sort of walks everything back into the position that he wants to be in. It was super a calm and collected way to deal with that lockdown. And then the other thing that I like in this entire match, and also whenever we see Lovato compete, he breaks a grip, and then he puts himself in a position to not be forced to break that grip again. And it was exactly when he was on the top in the knee cut with that collar grip, Arnaldo's reaching for the far side and grabbing his arm, the collar, not his collar, his, wrist grip.
Lapel?
No, wrist grip.
Okay, yeah.
Lovato breaks the grip.
Yeah,
sleeve grip. And then just gets himself into a position where Arnaldo can't reach that grip again. It has to go to a more inferior grip. And it's really beautiful if you watch this entire match. There's a couple times where this happens, where Lovato addresses a grip and then forces Arnaldo to take a different grip that is a worse grip and Arnaldo can't grip the grip that he previously had. It's a really nice it's just a really cool way that Lovato competes that you don't see a lot of guys are able to do at this level. And so, again, huge fan of Lovato. 3 years. Still has the title. I'm super curious now with Yuri out.
Saying that, well, Tackett was saying that Lovato has been training in the gi nonstop since, so he clearly.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to Edwin Najmi versus Benson Henderson. This is the co-main event fight to win 141. Edwin Najmi is really good at triangles and flying triangles.
So Edwin Najmi defeats Ben Henderson by flying triangle and main.
I don't have it. I don't have it listed.
It is the submission.
Is it submission night for the black belts?
There you go. Yep.
I realize I don't actually just have my notes. I don't actually have the full write-up, and I'm like, oh snap! I need to have that in front of me.
So yeah, it went. I mean, we talked about it in the preview. Like Edwin Najmi's signature is the flying fucking triangle, and this is a gi match, which sets that up perfectly. I mean, Edwin like sets the tone immediately. The match starts, and he does a nice chain here. Edwin shoots a fake takedown, and then launches into the flying triangle off of that. Doesn't connect his legs. Benson's able to avoid it, and then Edwin basically goes into Spyder guard from here. And immediately you can see Edwin can off balance Benson at will. And if you
that was
are
super
in guard,
telling to me. With
exactly.
He'd grab a grip, he'd just lift, he'd turn. He seemed like he was just deciding where he wanted to take him for the majority of the match. Like he was just so far ahead of him in the gripping sequences and where his hips were. That Ben was doing the best he could, but Ben could never get to the distance that he needed to work with, where his hips were super close to Najmi's hips. Najmi kept his hips away the entire time and kept Ben extended with the gi the entirety of the match.
Yeah, and I mean, truly launching Ben off balance here. So, in the beginning with a Spyder grip, Najmi does a really slick, Spyder guard into a deep half, back take. And Benson almost gets his back taken off the bat with that. And then, Benson's dealing with this Spyder guard, and he's leaning forward a lot. His hips are bent. His head is very far forward. And, with someone who both has long legs and is as proficient at triangles as Najmi, that is a recipe for disaster. And sure enough, Najmi, from Spyder guard, if the person's head is forward, shooting that triangle that's instinct to him. And he launches into a triangle, and again, this is the second triangle, and it's probably only 2 minutes into the match.
Something like that.
Benson's dealing with it again. And what's that?
I just thought it was really cool. The finishing triangle was awesome. Edwin actually talked about the finishing sequence on Reddit. And it was cool. He made a post about it. Yeah, and he talked a little bit about basically, I think someone asked him why he finished a certain way. He goes, oh yeah, because he jumps basically into mount on the triangle, and then he rolls to his back to finish this triangle. And someone's like, why do you do that? And he goes, oh yeah, I just feel more comfortable setting it up like that. There's less pressure and it's less hard on my knees. Because doing it from mount apparently is really hard on his knees. And I was like, oh, really interesting to hear a guy that's world-class level in triangles decide to finish off his back versus trying to finish it in the mount.
That's fascinating because I have very tight hips, and so it's hard for me to open up. And so there's a lot of pressure on my knees from the mount. If I get to mounted triangle, which I do love, I use it as a control position and attack the arm, do a shoulder lock or an arm bar from there. But that's interesting that he said that. I'm surprised. He has such long legs and such incredible flexibility. I didn't think that would be an issue for him.
I think it's really funny, too, because a lot of times you hear oh, yeah, at the higher levels, you always want to end up in the mount. You always want to stay there and finish the triangle from out. It's a higher level submission, and it's really cool to see a guy that's amazing and world class at it go, yeah, no, I want to finish from my back because it's less hard on my joints. And I went, that's a really interesting thing to hear from one of the triangle. He's one of the top 5 triangle guys in the world, it's really cool to hear like that level of insight from him on that.
So on the second triangle attempt, Benson escapes and he finds himself in Spyder guard again with Edwin again off balancing him with no problem. And Edwin sends Benson kind of like overhead and gets the sweep. And Edwin comes up on top here and he basically grabs the back of Benson's head. And this is where he just does a flying triangle while Benson is in guard. And he just leaps over it, connects his legs and, gets the triangle. And it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's,
He's a super slick triangle. I love this match because you got one guy in the white gi, one guy in the black gi. It makes seeing where everything is super easy. Dude, fun match. Like Najmi looks really good. I think Najmi is like 8-1 now at Fight to Win. I don't think this was for a title, but I'm pretty sure Najmi has formerly held a title at Fight to Win. I do not know if he still does, but I would love to see Najmi either defend the title or fight for the title. I'm looking at getting a big document together of all the champions across all organizations and in Fight to Win so that we can speak about this a little better, because I know that I have a picture of him at black belt with a Fight to Win title. I just don't know what division it was in. So, yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
I mean, not a whole lot else other than, like, Najmi looked really good. I'm happy to see Benson getting out there. I would like to see Benson, like, on more Fight to Wins. I would like to see him face guys that are maybe also MMA grapplers, more so than, like, jumping into some of the best guys in the world in the gi. Just because I think...
It's a different sport.
I would much rather see Benson be able to showcase more of what he can do versus a guy... of more similar grappling pedigree than a guy like Najmi that's like a world stage, world-class grappler. It was a fun match. I really enjoyed it. I'm happy it got made. I'll watch it again, but I just want to see both these guys sort of fight, fight more so their level. But, still a great match. I love seeing both these guys compete. Where do you move on to next? Let's move to William Tackett versus Troy Russell III.
Well, we'll just we'll knock out the last two black belt results here. Dylan White defeating Jason Bright via decision. John Pequena defeats Mike Anderson via choke. Banqueca, sorry about that. And then a brown belt. This is where we have Samuel Nagai defeating Mario Fonseca via armbar.
And that was submission night for the brown belts.
Yeah, dude, this was incredible. It's a utter beatdown that Nagai puts on, and you can see him. Just the whole sequence. He's dictating exactly what happens. He's going for knee bars. He's going for all kinds of stuff. But this end sequence was so good. I want to look more into this and see how he chained his attacks. But basically, Nagai goes for a far side straight armbar. So he's in top side control, and he scoops up the far armbar, and I thought he was going to spin around for kind of a traditional far side armbar, but then he just starts cranking down on it like a straight armbar.
Yeah, like a violent arm lock from the top.
You call it violent arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a super sneaky move because a lot of times guys will change their shoulder because they anticipate you running around. And if you start crunching it there, you'll get a really interesting reaction where guys a lot of times will just lift their shoulders off the mat to get closer to you. And it lets you set up like triangles and a bunch of other stuff. But it is super sneaky, but you have to actually get low on the guy's arm and lift it up to get to the elbow and get everything pinched in. It's a really, really, you don't see it a whole lot, but when you see it, it's super sneaky and it's like a really like nice move.
It's so sneaky because as you were just saying, the reaction is to take both arms and try to pull them in and create space. And so, Nagai is just waiting there, and Fonseca, sure enough, like puts both arms in, and then Nagai just grabs the near side arm and goes into a traditional armbar and rips it out and finishes it. It's tremendous.
I love like jiu-jitsu matches like this because you can see. I love when you do something and there's a predictable reaction to someone, and you can work off of that. I love seeing competitors that have built that into their game where it's like, cool, I'd go for this. They give me this because this is the reaction you should do, and then I'm ready for that, and I make this beautiful switch, and you get again submission of the nights like this. It was such a cool like finishing sequence.
Yeah, go and check it out for sure.
So let's move on to the title fights for the brown belts. William Tackett defeats Troy Russell via topside triangle to become the brown belt middleweight no-gi champion for Fight to Win. He previously had, I want to say, I've lost on my notes. He previously had the welterweight title at purple belt for Fight to Win. And I think Troy was the former lightweight champion at purple belt. So these guys popping up the middleweight, getting it done.
Yeah, and this is an example of just how far ahead William Tackett is. Like, he just, every single moment, he is 2 or 3 steps ahead of Troy Russell. And Troy's doing, a commendable job. He's doing everything right. It's just Tackett is reading it and predicting it and then moving forward. So this match starts off with Tackett hitting a beautiful duck under single leg, and Troy Russell gets a front headlock, starts to try to set up the guillotine, and Tackett does a great job turning into it and getting the takedown. And this is where, Troy does a great job elevating the legs from guard and spinning under for a deep half. But again, Tackett is 2 steps ahead. He's grabbing the far arm and he's rolling through. And he basically...
Oh, might have lost Emil here.
Goes forward like this.
Do one more time.
Where
after the deep half, we lost you there for a second.
Sure.
So it goes to the deep half. Tackett's ahead.
Yep. So Tackett's ahead, and this is just how the match progresses with Tackett just like 2 or 3 steps ahead, because now Troy finds himself in a full armbar, like a traditional spider web armbar. And, it doesn't matter what you do here. Tackett is going to have a whole arsenal of attacks once he has you in a submission. And sure enough, Troy is doing a good job getting his shoulder to the mat. And then Tackett just switches into a triangle, It's like out of the frying pan into the fire situation. And despite Tackett having a bizarre angle here, he does a beautiful readjustment where he switches his legs on the triangle and goes to a triangle from the back and gets the tap. It's just such an amazing sequence.
Yeah, in my notes it says Tackett has a very interesting armbar switch here, and it looks kind of like he finished it with like a mirror lock. It's like a mirror lock triangle finish where he's in the triangle and then he starts fighting the free arm over like a joystick arm lock, and to attack it at the shoulder joint. And again, I love this arm lock, and I think this is actually what he finishes it with. I couldn't quite tell. Whenever you're in a topside triangle like this like. It's always hard to tell. Is it the crank of the neck, is it the triangle, or is it the arm in that position? Great triple threat. Again, Tackett looked amazing here. There's a reason why there's even we're even discussing him fighting a guy like Lepre, as a newer brown belt, is because performances like this, showing that he is a really, really good grappler, and you're going to see a lot more from him again, which is why we wrote an article on him and Pedro Mourinho ahead of their Third Coast Grappling event coming up. It's because these guys are really good and they're worth your attention. So, super great performance. Looked amazingly dominant. Looked good. A lot of fun little pieces to take away, and just the way that he is ahead of his opponents and the way that he's moving through all the positions is great to watch. He's a really good action fighter. It's fun to cover. Move on to the next one.
Yeah, let's do it.
We got
Tyler Murrah defeats Bobby Alexander via split decision.
Becomes the brown belt Masters middleweight champion. Whew, I'm looking at 2 sets of notes here. This was basically Tyler gets a knee bar for a lot of the match, holds it, and then sort of doesn't do a ton with it, but that's the submission attempt he has for the majority of the match, and he gets the decision off of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's saying a lot to be able to maintain control in a knee bar like that.
It was the majority of the match. I want to say it was at least 5 or 6 minutes of the match was in that position, working, kind of holding. He didn't ever look like he was working super hard to extend it, but there wasn't, Bobby Alexander didn't really have a good pathway out of it. Towards the end of the match, you could tell Bobby got a little frustrated and he tried to push the pace more and kind of get it back, but there just was about a minute left in the match, so not a whole lot to do.
Hard to do.
I'm curious to see who they will put Tyler up against next.
Yeah.
So I want to go through the next one.
Yeah, we got purple belts. Yeah, Colton Phoenix defeats Robert Galan by decision. Andy Van Hook defeats Ben Crosley by split decision. Edward Johnson defeats Kenny Gunter by decision. Terrian Byers defeats Micah Valdez via heel hook. Dimitri Thompson defeats Eric Mercado by split decision. Daniel Gabriel defeats Trey Hawkins via decision. Aaron McKenzie defeats Noah Villamarete via ankle lock. Erica Snow Barnes defeats Catherine Arnold via decision.
On to the kids' results.
Hope Russell defeats Haley Daniel via decision.
So that does it for our recap of Fight to Win 141. Super fun card. Again, I like these shorter Fight to Win cards. Like Seth and the team are getting action fighters together, and like, dude, there were some fun matches on this card. Where do you want to go to next, Emil? What do you want to preview first?
Let's do SUG, man. That's just I will give Chael credit where credit is due. He's stepped up the quality of SUG a ton, and put on some really compelling cards. I'm actually very much looking forward to this main event here.
So Sunday, May 31st, at airing 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. On May 31st, we got SUG 14, headlined by Wagner Hosha versus Craig Jones as the main event. It's a rematch from EBI 11 that Wagner was able to take. I think, was it in overtime at EBI 11?
I can't recall, but yeah, it was a closely contested match. I don't think it must have been overtime because I don't think either of them finished.
No, I know that
in that match. Yeah,
it's crazy. And this is a cut matches. This rematch is what, 3 years or 2 years in potentially in the making there. I think this is now not going to be at 170. I want to say this is probably going to be at 85 or even higher. I know Wagner's going up, and I think Craig's coming down a little bit, but their first match was at welterweight. And I don't think there's a way in hell that Craig is
coming down that far.
He's not making 170. I think for Vinny, he was like 190 something.
I love this matchup. Both of these guys are so entertaining in their own way. I'm curious to see what happens. Wagner's really hip and like to the leg lock game. I'll be curious to see if Craig is able to get his game going against Wagner. And then of course Wagner, we also know, has insane pressure, and is excellent at putting guys kind of out of their A game. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm curious. I think how it's going to go is I think Craig is going to pull. He has no reason not to. I am curious to see if SUG makes this a 5-minute match again, like they have been in their recent cards. I think it's been a really good change. But I think Craig's going to pull. We're going to see Wagner posting on the head and on the shoulder a lot, kind of at that longer range, and then he's going to try to pressure in knees low. I think very similar to how Vinny is going to address it. Because again, Magalhaes is a really, really good technician for how he addresses situations.
Why don't you think Craig will stand against Wagner?
I just don't. I don't think there's any incentive to, especially in a 5-minute match. I don't think there's a huge benefit for Craig to fight a guy like Wagner on the feet. I think maybe he can take Wagner down, but I think he's going to spend a lot of time, and Wagner is crafty enough to potentially have back takes from there and do other things there. Whereas I think Craig, typically in super fights, and especially in shorter super fights, we see him elect to pull more often than not. I think we've seen.
Well, in this case, he's going to be the bigger guy.
Yeah, so. No, I see. There's we've seen him in Kasai and ADCC. Like we've seen him use his wrestling and use his stand up. I just historically, especially in SUG, we have seen Craig pull. Yeah, and that's kind of why I think he's going to pull.
Vinny's much bigger. Vinny is much bigger.
Paul Harris.
We've seen Craig. Paul Harris is bigger. We've seen it where Craig, I think against bigger, stronger, dangerous guys like that, he goes to his guard. But, against Dante Leon, he stood up and did fucking amazing.
Yeah. Mason Fowler.
So I'm curious, yeah. So we might see him stand against Wagner.
Yeah.
That's definitely a possibility.
I just think in rewatching the Wagner versus Leon match, some of the entries that Leon it was hitting on Wagner into the legs. Again, that match was a couple years ago, so it's not necessarily as representative of either of these guys now. It is just, I think that Craig is much more refined and he's much more particular about the style of entry he uses. And we saw that versus Vinny. I foresee a really similar style of entry because in SUG, like that is what historically Craig, what he pulls, he goes to that G shield, he goes underneath you, he comes out the other side with the heel hook, and then I see Wagner having the ability to defend that. I just think that Craig being such the bigger guy now, he's going to be able to use that advantage and get Wagner even further away than he has in the past.
I don't know. I see this as Craig. This is a chance for him to sharpen his stand up and against someone who's not going to be able to push him around as much. So we'll see how it goes.
Super interesting. Again, I'm super curious about the match. I'm super excited for this one. This is a really good sub-main event.
Yep.
Next match
next up we have Brent Primus versus Jake Shields. Great to see Jake, remaining active in grappling.
But I love that it's an MMA versus MMA match. Like I love that SUG we're getting a little away from a lot of the jiu-jitsu guy versus MMA guy. We're doing like jiu-jitsu guy versus jiu-jitsu guy. And Wagner fought a lot. Wagner fought in the UFC. Like Wagner's done MMA. Wagner's a very good MMA fighter. But more so now a grappler. But right. Brett and Jake are both like MMA grapplers, and I think that's a good matchup. I foresee Jake looking to implement a wrestling game. I foresee Primus looking to do the same thing. I think we're going to see a lot of cage work in this match. I'm guessing this one is going to go to overtime. I just have a feeling both these guys are going to not play too cautious, but we're going to see a lot of cage work here, and we're going to see a lot of both guys working for the takedown in this match.
Next up, we have Gabriel Checo versus Austin Vanderford.
This is a good match. Austin just coming off a win over Boogie Martinez at the last SUG.
Yep.
Gabriel is no joke. And again, but Vanderford showed that he has some good grappling chops as well. Really good topside head and arm.
I like that Chael is taking people who are winning and putting them consistently on cards, so that you see them kind of it's not exactly a title defense, but it feels that way, and it feels like someone climbing up the rankings, basically.
Again, we talk about this, off air and a little bit on the air, of giving like a league, the semblance of a league, and that's why I'm a big fan of the Flow Grappling rankings, because it gives you additional context for why matchups matter. It's like, okay, this guy's ranked 15, he's taking on number 12 guy. It's like, it's a cool matchup. I'm happy about the matchup. But with rankings, okay, if he beats the number 12 guy, he's going to pop up in the rankings. Then it makes these other matchups around him more interesting. It gives you additional framework to talk about guys and their performances that is really helpful for us. And it gives us the semblance of a league. And I'm a big fan of that. So I like, again, what you said, Emil, that Chael is putting guys that are winning on SUG on future cards so that we're seeing them like, okay, you won once? Cool. Next card. You win again? Cool. Next card. And the guys are popping up and higher on the main card. I think it's a really good thing.
Yep. Next up, we have Grappling Rewind favorite Jordan Holy versus Andrew Alexander.
Dude.
Holy puts on super entertaining matches.
This is going to be a lot of fun.
I think
Holy is a leg lock dude through and through. He can do a lot of other stuff as well. I don't take anything away from him. But I see him wanting to enter into the legs and aggressively hunt the heel hooks here. I just have a feeling that that's what he's going to do. He is a submission hunter guy, and that's partially why we love covering him so much, because he is, dude, looking for the finish.
Yeah. And then top of the undercard here, we have Dan Stoner versus Roberto Jimenez. Jimenez has just been we can't look at an event without Jimenez on there, and that is not a complaint. He is super entertaining. He brings the energy. He's obviously now really elevating his skill level, and on any given day can hang and put down the best in the world. So awesome that he's on this card as well. I think there's no question that this will be an entertaining match.
I think we're probably going to see Jimenez on the main card next time. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I hope we get the Jimenez that we saw at Who's Number One and that we saw at the Third Coast events, like the dude that just comes out guns blazing, ready to, even on Fight to Win a couple weeks ago. Like that
Yeah,
Jimenez is a
it's
ton of fun to watch.
it's just he's always fun to watch. Like at Fight to Win, he was on the wrong end of a decision there. Not saying the decision was wrong, but just losing end of the decision, and but it's still an entertaining match. And in this case, we're gonna see exactly. I just love that he doesn't quit. Like he at no point do I see Jimenez really taking his foot off of the pedal in matches. So he does not take minutes off.
So that'll be a ton of fun. There's a bunch of other undercard matches. Again, shorter card. I really am a huge fan of what SUG is doing recently. The last couple events have been a lot of fun. I think they've made some really great changes in the promotion, and it's dope. Move on to Fight to Win.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so Fight to Win 142 in Dallas, Texas on May 30th. I wrote an entire article. It's on the grapplingrewind.com right now about this card, headlined by Gabby Garcia versus Kendall Riesling. Co-main event, Lucas Valente versus Macias Gabriel. Co-main event, Dante Leon versus Johnny Tama. This one is going to be fireworks. Like, this card's going to be great. I want to start out with the Dante versus Tama match because that's the one I put a ton of time into for the article because these guys have history. These guys both are Nogi World Champions at a one weight class apart this year. We're huge fans that we covered Dante a bunch on the show. We've covered Tama recently on the show. This is going to be a really, really fun match.
Yeah, Dante is just straight up one of my favorite grapplers, period, to watch. Like I have been eyeing him for actually honestly like a couple of years now, and every time I've seen him, he impresses me with his skill set across all phases of grappling. We see him do amazing stand-up. We see him do amazing guard work. We see him do amazing passing, and his submissions are incredible. We saw him at ADCC take Lepri's back. He is clearly on the top echelon of competitors, so that's going to be awesome.
I'm super curious about this match because I just watched their first match at World Series of Grappling back in 2018. We've seen huge improvements from both guys, but particularly we've been able to cover Leon on more super fights. I'm really curious if the dynamic of that match goes the same way, or if we're going to see much more entries into the legs from Leon here, entries into the back. Because we just saw Tama, I think, last weekend versus Ethan Kronston with that awesome leg exchange work between him and Kronston. I'm very curious to see because we know Dante primarily as an RNC guy and a knee bar guy. If we're going to see a very, very similar match in that style versus Kronston with these two guys.
Where I see the difference between Kronston and Leon is Kronston's another guy who does impressively across all phases. I do think Dante is generally more active with the submission hunting, we see Dante throw up submissions. I think probably a more diverse array of submission attempts.
Yeah.
So I think that can definitely play a decisive factor in the fight to win rule set. Where
the match with Tama when Kronston was very, very close. I think Dante has a really good style to take this one. Again, Tama took the first match at World Series of Grappling 2 years ago, but since then, Leon has been on a tear. Fourth place at ADCC. He beat Rotolo at Grapple Fest. Again, it's all in the article that you can read on grapplingrewind.com. Put a lot of work into that one. It is good. It's honestly the match this next weekend that I'm low key. It's the top. Actually, there's 6 matches next week that are great, but it's one of the ones that I'm super, super looking forward to because it's going to be. It's a really, really well matched matchup, and it's fun action fighting for both guys. So I can't pick a winner on that one. They're both guys.
I'll pick Dante, but I'm a Dante stan, so what can I say?
I think both guys have really good pathways to victory here, and that is what I love about good matchmaking. Next match we have Gabby Garcia versus Kendall Riesling. What do you say about Gabby Garcia? 4-time ADCC champion. Been a little less active. She hasn't competed in about 8 months, but Garcia tends to take some time off from grappling now and again. didn't lose a step at ADCC. Kendall, really good judoka, collegiate wrestling experience. She's the current Nogi world champion, weight and absolute, closing out with her teammate. This is a big step up for Riesling. Again, Riesling showed that she can do it at Nogi Worlds, but Gabby Garcia...
It is. I will say Gabby's style is not conducive to winning decisions in fight to win.
Yeah, I mean, she's 1-1 right now in fight to win.
Right. So, what Gabby's known for is, more than any grappler that I know, dictating the match and smothering and controlling her opponents. But, that can get you somewhere in fight to win. But, if your opponent even has one or two legit submission attempts, that's the match right there.
Yeah.
So
again, I think and exactly to that point, Garcia is an outstanding positional grappler. But we saw her this last ADCC. There was a couple women that she was trying to submit and just wasn't able to submit in the regulation time. For fight to win, that controlling that pressure is very, very good, but the lack of submission attempts there, and like the frequent submission attempts, potentially plays much more to Riesling's kind of strong suit here, although Garcia is super hard to get off of you. And so I'm very curious to see how this matchup plays up. If Gabby can implement and kind of dictate her pace from the beginning, I think it's going to be very hard for Kendall to start getting things off. But if Kendall can have a couple good showings of offense, and potentially start like implementing her game, it's going to take Garcia a minute to kind of either be able to take the match back, or she's going to put Garcia on the offensive and the defensive. And I'm not as certain nowadays in the fight to win rule set how Garcia fares there. So again, another really, really interesting matchup. Two very different styles of grappler there. I think Kendall's going to give up some weight here to Garcia. I don't know. I think Kendall was like a 170er in wrestling, but she's cutting a lot of weight there. I think Garcia walks around at like 220 or something like that, maybe a little larger. So again, potentially a little bit of weight difference there, but in the women's weight classes, both women are very, very accustomed to that, so it plays less of a factor. Next match, we have Lucas Valente versus Mateus Gabriel, two upper echelon guys, the IBJJF World Stage. Mateus Gabriel, 2019 World Champion. Lucas Valente, 2019 silver medalist. Super well-matched matchup. I think I remember covering Lucas. We've covered Lucas a bunch of times, but on Fight to Win, he had on Third Coast. He had a super great match and ended up with, getting a nice heel hook. Mateus Gabriel we've covered before, I think on Grapple Fest and on the Worlds and stuff like that.
And Valente's in the Kumite 1, right?
Yeah, he is for Third Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so another super active grappler that we're going to be seeing a ton of. Yeah, that match is going to be fire.
Yeah, so it's super great. Again, Fight to Win 142 is going to be a ton of fun. I am looking forward to it. Those are the matches I'm going to preview on the card right now. Again, I don't think we have a full card yet. Fight to Win has been putting the cards out really, really close to the event itself. So we'll know more as the week goes on. But those three matches are for sure worth your time to pay attention to. I think Andrew Tackett also has a match on this card or the following week's Fight to Win card. I'm not certain who he is against or what week it is actually on, but again, always tune in for the Tackett brothers. We covered William this week. We're covering Andrew, I think, either this next week on this Fight to Win or the following week. Dude, Fight to Win has been killing it recently in Dallas. I think they're in Dallas for the next couple weeks. Let me check the grapplingrewind.com/events for that information. Yeah, looks like they're in Dallas for at least the next 2 or 3 weeks. So they kind of made a home in Dallas. The cards are going well. Commentary was great this week. So looking forward to more fun stuff. Do you want to move into Spyder?
Let's do it.
So Spyder road to black belt. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. So this is basically Spyder's preliminary purple and brown belt card that they run. And then if you win this, my understanding is you get a slot into the big Spyder Invitational. The Spyder Invitational tournament. It was a $100,000 prize per division this last year to the winner. I think $250,000 total.
Yeah, we saw Jonathan Alves as a brown belt make his way into the actual event, right? So, and we saw him do amazing. in that as a brown belt. So the brown and purple belts they're picking certainly have the ability to compete on that level.
And I have it on good authority that the Korean grapplers here, we had someone from Korea actually sent us a message and was like, hey, the Korean guys in this bracket are murderers. So yeah, just so they're purple belts and brown belts, like these guys are like the top dudes in Korea. Again, we've not seen as much of them, but I think a couple of them have schools. Like this is a legitimately just crazy bracket. From AOJ, we have. Do you want to give me the names, Emil? Because I'm garbage at it.
Zach Cana versus Diego Sodre.
We've talked about Diego on the show a little bit.
Yep. On the other side of that bracket, we have Gwenju Lee versus Seokhyun Seo. Both obviously Korean grapplers. Excited to see. We've seen the Korean grapplers step their game up and really do impressively. We saw, I can't remember the name of the grappler, hang with Paulo Miao. So just, I'm excited to see exactly what emerges. On the other side of the bracket, we have Yeon Seo Ha and versus Fabricio Andre, and Ji-Hwan Park versus Josh Cisneros. We've, of course, talked a bunch about Cisneros. He's a brown belt out of the U.S. We saw him do that amazing TP choke, which was that the submission of the year?
I think it was submission of the year for Fight to Win. I think like overall, it was just like a 20-second TP choke. He jumps up, TP chokes this guy to sleep, and then finishes. That was like back at purple belt for him. He's had some great performances at brown belt too. I love Spyder because Spyder, we have 2 Americans, we have 4 Koreans, and we have 2 Brazilians. Like I love this is like a real international level invitation tournament, and that's really cool to see. It's a great mix. You have more people from the home country, half your bracket, and then you have half the bracket is from not the home country. It's
not to mention like seeing a purple belt from AOJ. It's just like you always wonder if that's the person who in 3 years you see like wrecking house as a new black belt. So should be super entertaining.
Yeah, that's also taking place on May 31st. I think that's on Flow, but I actually do not know where that is being streamed. I should check that out. I'll try to post where that's actually occurring. It's been on Flow previously. It's also been on YouTube streamed previously. I don't know because this is actually the road to black belt if this is going to be on Flow or not. I'm pulling all the information we have off of like the Spyder's Instagram and their website, so I can look more into that, and I'll try to post later this week where that card is actually going. That's all I got for previews, man. It's going to be an awesome week. I'm super excited for like what next week has. There's like probably 6 or 8. It's gonna be a long show next weekend. I feel like it's probably like 6 or 8 matches that we're gonna have to talk about. So another one of those 3-card weeks where it's like, okay, well, of the 20 matches, which ones do you want to talk about, Emil?
It's impossible, man.
Dude, I just hope we don't have another 5-show week. We don't have another 5-event week. I think we've had it only a couple times on the show where we've had 5 and 6 events, and I think one week we actually broke it out into 2 different shows that week. I'm like, hey, there's too much stuff to cover today. We're gonna do a show on Monday. We're gonna do a follow-up Thursday show. Just because there was so much stuff. But next week should be just the standard show. Again, we're still in quarantine for the kind of the foreseeable future. We're still going to bring you the show the best way that we can. Sorry for the hits in audio that happened this week. Doing the best we can. But dude, pro grappling is back. It feels like we're back in like the full swing of things for the amount of events, the level of talent on all the events.
Yep. Yeah. And actually, it's interesting with IBJJF having to take a backseat and these other smaller promotions being able to step up. We'll see what the next year looks like in jiu-jitsu. Should be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm super curious to see how like the landscape, if the landscape changes, neither would surprise me if things go back to the way they were, or if kind of the pro grappling scene, the amateur grappling scene looks significantly different after all this. Yep. I think it's definitely going to look different. Just how much different it looks, I can't speak to you because I don't know. We are still not doing the show in person. we're still doing it remotely. So that kind of speaks to where currently we are. I think Baltimore, we relive Baltimore County and City. We haven't even entered phase 1 in Maryland yet for like opening up. I'm still not really leaving my house more than like once or twice a week for the most part. I am running a shitload and I hate my life. I'm running like 20 miles a week. It's not great.
Hey, man. Keeping that cardio up.
Dude, the cardio is getting good though. My mile time's just like dropping aggressively, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm getting back into shape. It hurts to walk downstairs some days.
Be careful, man. Don't give yourself shin splints.
Oh man, every day is leg day at the Grappling Rewind house.
That's
basically.
right.
What are you up to? Anything new?
Just more yoga. Yeah, it's been great. Hopefully, I don't come back like a stiff fucking garbage guard player. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, you're doing the right things. I just want to get in really good shape. So remember back like before so we're in the outdoor section now. So we're just gonna talk for a minute. Remember like a while ago before quarantine happened, I was gonna compete at Grappling Industries in like middle of April, and I was like making the weight cut down to like 145. See, I got on the scale yesterday, 147.
Oh shit!
So I actually just like quarantined myself back into shape with lots and lots of running.
There you go.
By running like 50 or 60 miles a month.
There you go. Sweet.
And I'm like, oh, sweet. Cool. I've now made weight accidentally, and I'm in better shape, but there's no competition to be had. So I guess I'm just healthier now.
Hey, why not? Take it where you can get it, man.
It just made me laugh and went, oh, cool. I made the weight cut. Awesome. So, yeah, I got nothing else. Again, we usually the outdoor section's a little longer because we're actually doing stuff. But, month 3 of us doing yoga and running, there's not a whole lot else to talk about. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
All right. So, as always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, joined with my co-host.
Emil.
And we are the Grappling Rewind. We'll see you on the mats whenever that is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.